Hello, I'm Robbie Woolley, CEO of analyst firm Beecham Research. This video accompanies the report Simplifying Global IoT Connectivity and Security, Addressing the Key Challenges, sponsored by floLIVE. The report is available as a free handout with this video and can be downloaded straight away. So going global with business operations that use IoT introduces a host of connectivity challenges, but the requirement to go global has never been stronger and is set to increase considerably. This chart comes from a recent Beecham Research survey and shows the connectivity requirement for those responding to the survey. While local coverage for IoT connectivity represented 39% of the requirements, 61% were looking for regional or global coverage. That is consistent across several surveys. The regional and global requirement is now growing stronger. The main connectivity technology for this is cellular in one form or another. With this comes potential roaming constraints, including banning of permanent roaming in some countries, together with latency, scaling, and other issues, as well as security concerns. Data sovereignty, where some countries require that data is subject to the laws of the country or region where it's generated, is also a growing challenge. Cellular IoT connectivity continues to grow strongly. In 2022, the global number of cellular IoT connections was 2.7 billion. With an estimated growth rate of 12%, it's expected that there'll be 5.4 billion cellular IoT connections in 2028. This is primarily being driven by increasing adoption of 5G for a variety of reasons. That includes its fast connection, which enables real-time data connection and insights, as well as the deployment of edge computing and edge AI. One way in which businesses are seeking to expand their terrestrial coverage is through roaming agreements. In fact, a recent study predicts that the global number of 5G IoT roaming connections is set to grow enormously over the next few years, with West Europe expected to be the driving market for this growth because of the large number of country-based mobile operators. Yet there is a counter-argument to this that floLIVE strongly supports. This is that roaming alone cannot serve most IoT use cases, particularly where end-to-end latency and overall quality of service are key issues. Instead, multi-IMSI and EUICC technologies, which store multiple mobile network operator profiles and facilitate immediate network switching, are more appropriate to expand the cellular coverage of IoT devices. There is also a growing number of use cases demanding connectivity in remote areas. Given that terrestrial networks cover no more than 20% of the Earth's surface, non-terrestrial network options are expected to be increasingly required to enable full global coverage. Satellite connectivity for IoT is naturally more costly than terrestrial networks, but there are now an increasing number of reasons for IoT satellite growth. Essentially, these revolve around reducing the cost of satellite compared with terrestrial, as well as improving performance. The integration of NB-IoT cellular and LoRa technologies provide an opportunity for standards-based connectivity rather than proprietary, and the drive towards lower costs. Satellite launch costs are also being driven down. Together with these rapidly growing number of use cases in remote regions, these drivers are expected to yield significant growth in satellite IoT connections over the next few years. Market forecasts reflect this, with the number of satellite IoT connections expected to grow from just over 5 million in 2022 to over 23 million by 2028. So turning to security, there's now a growing need for IoT security. This chart shows how significant the financial impact of an IoT security breach is expected to be for survey respondents. This would indicate perhaps a high level of interest in IoT security solutions. This next chart shows how many respondent companies have experienced a significant IoT-related security incident recently. Around 20% of respondents have experienced a significant incident. More to the point, around 80% have not, and this does affect expectations. There's often a feeling that it won't happen to us. This typically relates to IoT devices being seen as low cost and not an obvious target for sophisticated attacks. As a result, the level of preparedness is generally pretty low. But consider this: the number of IoT devices now installed in the field is now large and therefore much more likely to be a target than in earlier years when the installed base was pretty low. Many IoT devices are also now part of critical infrastructure or business processes that can ill afford downtime. At the same time, the level of government regulation is increasing quickly to the point where if a device or devices are seen to have been a cause of significant breaches, then substantial penalties are likely to follow. An example of this from a few years ago illustrates the risk. A large number of video cameras, fairly low cost, unintelligent devices, were hacked and taken over and then used to implement a DDoS attack against Netflix, Yahoo, and other companies. These were video cameras that had the same identical code and the same vulnerability flaw. 500,000 of these devices were taken over and used in the attack. The point here is that it's not just a question of a direct attack on one device. Although that is a worry, particularly for consumer devices, it is really the scale of using what could be several million basic IoT devices to launch an attack on a completely unrelated service. There is a shared responsibility for this if we use connected devices. This chart then indicates areas of particular challenge for respondents in implementing security. Considering the very challenging and challenging scores together, the biggest issue is seen to be keeping up to date with the latest security threats, with a composite 82% score. Next is a lack of standards and the fragmented state of security across different suppliers, with an 81% score. The third highest, at 73%, was having the right security skills in-house. Ability to scale, on the other hand, was considered to be less challenging. These scores indicate a likely interest in solutions that help to deal with these challenges, in particular, a managed service approach. So what is floLIVE responding to these challenges? To answer that, I'm joined by floLIVE's co-founder, head of strategy and business development globally, Ronnie Cohen.
Yes, so floLIVE is firstly an IoT infrastructure company. At the heart of its offering really is a global infrastructure of core networks and packet gateways around the world, which are sort of geographically redundant for each region and between the regions themselves. And it really is our own technology of core networks, sort of in all the different sort of RAT functions, from 2G to 5G and the narrowband and Cat-M, but they're split between the US in various locations, central, west, and east of the United States, Europe, Africa, and Asia. I think today we're running a very large network of over 70 of those packet gateways today.
All right, that's great. And then floLIVE works pretty extensively with connectivity service providers, and that sort of includes mobile operators. So what would you say it is that floLIVE offers them?
Well, floLIVE, so on top of the infrastructure that you mentioned, which really is the heart of our offering, we have a number of layers on top of that, which is the connectivity management platform, which includes obviously all the management of the multi-layer management of the customers themselves, the management of the connectivity and the SIM cards of each of those customers, and sort of also white label options for them, a full suite of real-time billing. And it's a little bit of a joke that our billing is actually real-time because it's actually running on our packet gateways, and we do control it in real time. So usually when a lot of the companies will say real time, it's not really real time, it's a little bit delayed. So there's a little bit of a joke where our customers say, oh, this is actually real time. So it's real-time billing, connectivity management platform, and a suite of eSIM infrastructure, sort of eSIM offering on top of that. So there's our patent SIM technology has a multi-IMSI over UICC, and as such can
Right.
switch between IMSIs inside one EU ICC container. And really the offering, that's the offering to our partners and to the mobile operators. That's what they're using with us. They're actually using the capability to sell through our platform, and that becomes the platform for their customers. But they're also utilizing our global network in order to provide a high performance network. And we can touch on that maybe in a minute, but yeah, the high performance network is really where the benefit is for the end customer, and differentiates it from sort of local players or roaming players.
Yeah, so it's a global solution, more than a local solution, but I guess there's a local flavor to it.
Yes, so really, as I mentioned, all these local packet gateways provide a local offering, in the sense that it can roam on various networks within a country, so there are 2 or 3 networks in each country. However, the data terminates locally, and really that's the element of it's the key, the secret sauce here, because we're terminating locally. The speeds are high, the latency is low. There's local IP addresses in country, which gives, there's a lot of benefits to that from perhaps a data sovereignty point of view in certain subsectors, as well as regulation perhaps around financial services, POS, critical infrastructure, electricity, water, gas, sort of critical infrastructure doesn't want the data to be roaming and circumventing the globe and coming back. And as such, they want the data to be local and have local IP addresses. And you get that high performance network, as a holistic solution, really.
But then it operates globally, so there's a global reach for any particular company that wants to use your network. It has a sort of localization, but it's a global reach.
Yes, absolutely. So we have over 20 operator groups on our network today. They are also consumers of our infrastructure themselves, but they're also reselling to their enterprise customers outside of their geographical region. The local flavor, as you call it, is because we're using 20 of those operator groups, and within their opcos, we're offering a local solution with local IMSIs, local termination. It's always on our network, though. Apart from very few specific situations, it's always on our network. It authenticates, the SIM cards authenticate on our core networks, and the data terminates on our packet gateways. So we have a quality assurance on that bandwidth, and we're not competing for resources, with mobile operators, handset users, etc.
Yeah, that's great. So if we now turn to enterprise users and other types of IoT users, so that would be like product manufacturers and solution providers, the people, if you like, at the edge of the network. How does floLIVE's infrastructure offering provide benefits for those?
So the enterprises would consume our services either through the service providers that we provide the service to, or in very limited cases, large multinational enterprises who want to run their own network. Essentially, then they would sort of work with us directly, but it's a very limited amount, really, because it's only really large companies that understand that they need to run their own network. What the benefits for them really is that it kind of solves the puzzle of doing specific deals with every operator in every region, in every different price proposal, and different packages and different contract times, and these contracts that start for a specific period, or they're floLIVE has a very IoT-centric business model. You know, you pay for what you use. You don't pay for, there's no service fees if you're not using it. It's built for the IoT. And so it solves that puzzle of connectivity for them. We, as I mentioned, you know, we have a global reach, one of the largest sort of IMSI libraries in the world today. Many partners, large amount of packet gateways. We're growing at 2 or 3 packet gateways per quarter. Every reach, you know, if we have customers in specific regions, we will build the packet gateways where we need to reduce the latency, always to get that high performance network. So it solves it from a commercial point of view for them. It solves it from a network point of view for them. Large enterprises cannot afford to deal with the with latency. They can't afford to deal with the complexities around compliance in roaming. So compliance is becoming an extremely important issue for them. Again, different sectors with different compliance requirements and different regulations, but the locality of it always solves that.
Yes. So there is that issue of data sovereignty, isn't there? That in some countries, the data that is generated in the country needs to stay in the country.
That's correct.
And then summaries can be sent, and that helps to resolve that kind of issue for those companies.
That's correct. So the local packet gateway means it's via a local ISP. It's always terminating via one ISP, and that really gives us that benefit, you know. It's using, as I mentioned, it's using the local IP addresses, using the local ISP. It doesn't leave the country. Again, it could be some countries that have that requirement specifically in a specific country, like we know Turkey and other examples. Or it could be a specific sector, like in certain countries, the point of sale devices, and in GDPR, there are certain sectors that require the data to be local. Emergency services don't necessarily want patient data, for example, to be cross-bordered, and they require it locally as well, again, in some European countries and some.
It also means, I guess, that there is one platform to connect with. I mean, you mentioned earlier that if an enterprise is dealing with lots of different mobile operators, then there are probably going to be lots of different platforms that they need to plug into. Whereas if they're dealing with floLIVE, then it goes through one platform.
Yes, that's correct. So if a large enterprise were to consume from 3 or 4 different mobile operators, typically that need to integrate to those platforms that the mobile operator is using, they would need to connect to those APIs, and those APIs change, as we know, you know, and there's new versions, and you need to adapt to those versions and sort of get your tech team to constantly stay updated. That's very complicated. You know, working with a company like floLIVE allows them to have, you know, a single point, or, you know, it's used too loosely now, but, you know, a single pane of glass to manage your entire connectivity needs, and also sort of those regions commercially and from a network performance point of view, as well as solves the issue of working. Pretty much most of the operator groups in the world are on our network today. So we also, for very large enterprises, allow them to bring their own, you know, connectivity agreements, and we would manage it as well for them. So, you know, in a sense, most of the mobile operators are quite aware of working within the Flow network, and they're quite happy when an enterprise says, "Oh yeah, we're on the Flow network," and they could run their own commercial agreements between them if needed.
Right. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about multi-IMSI. So floLIVE offers a multi-IMSI single SIM solution for IoT connectivity. Could you just explain what that means and what the benefits of that are?
Yeah. So, you know, as we are aware of sort of an eSIM option where you can sort of download yourself a SIM electronic SIM, but that's a single IMSI on one SIM, where our solution offers multiple IMSIs on the single eSIM, which means it sits as many as 10 or more, if needed, IMSIs on one SIM. That means that the capability to switch between them is a function of our network. As all these IMSIs are authenticating on our own core network and not on the MNO's core network, it allows us to switch easily between them without going out to an RSP platform and coming back, and so that costly activity of going and changing. And in terms of speed, it's a lot less data hungry to change that. So that's as I said, because it's these IMSIs are authenticating on our network. So as such, you can have multiple IMSIs on a single EUICC container, and you can, it gives the capability to the enterprise to have it on one SIM, but could have other profiles in there if they ever wanted to choose. So, we give them that complete flexibility and the complete independence that if one day they would want to leave, they're not locked in. This is not an operator lock-in exercise.
Yeah. I mean, that must increase or improve the availability of network.
Yeah, I mean, as much as our network has high availability, sometimes there's IMSIs which rely on the radio access network of that operator may be down for some reason, or signaling, may be down for some reason. There's always the capability that it goes to the second IMSI or the third IMSI, or if the device, dies altogether, there is that business logic that we could program onto the application inside the SIM to say, if there's a timer, 20 minutes, 24 hours, lost connection, go back, to the slot number 5, which will give you that 100%. We know that there's going to be coverage there. It might not be commercially the best viable option, but you still have a way to get back to your device and figure it out and configure it and get data, etc. So as we all know,
extends to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That extends to satellite as well.
Yes. So now with the non-terrestrial option of the satellite connectivity, again, sort of that's still on very low bandwidth, as we know. It's that narrow band over satellite. There are at least 17 of the 3GPP that allows us sort of that dual mode GSM NTN on the same SIM. That's already functioning now. Yeah.
And can you say something about the security that floLIVE offers on the network?
Yeah, so I think, security in general has sort of two ways to do it. Either you secure something on the device, or you secure it on the network. But we're not the device manufacturer, and we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of various devices that use our network, millions of devices around the world. We cannot be the protector of the security on the device side. However, on a more proactive way, we are protecting the device from a network side. And there's obviously various phases to that. There's, controlling our own network. So, we have a single policy across all our network, which is very difficult for an enterprise to get from an MNO. They're using 20 different MNOs. There's no way for them to get that single policy of security across all those MNOs. But we know that we manage our own signaling network within between all our core networks, between all our packet gateways, the VPNs between all our cores and packet gateways, and to the end customer as well. I guess the APN, but that's relatively standard, And I think you're sort of looking at anomaly detection across our network, more specific fixed devices, for example, in a point of sale or an electricity meter, having the lock-in between the IMSI and the IMEI, the hardware of the device as well, so we can lock that on our core. So if it authenticates in a different IMEI, it will not continue the registration. So there's various ways to, we take a holistic approach across the network, and it goes all the way from core to authentication and everything in between, the packet gateways, the signaling gateways, the billing, the radius, the diameter, everything that happens along the way. It's really
and actually there's much more in the report on that detail as well. So that's great. Thanks for that. So the final thing that I'd just like to explore with you is, you said earlier that customers can have a complete service, if you like. They can bring together their own service and their connectivity and wrap it up together as their service, but with floLIVE providing the background global connectivity. Can you just say a little bit more about that? I mean, do you see floLIVE as offering the means for IoT users to offer their own customers a complete service that includes connectivity?
Yes, I guess sort of you touched on two different things. I'll touch on the first point. The first point is, so if one of our service providers would like, or large enterprise would like to bring their own connectivity, meaning they'll bring their own agreement with an MNO, they could do that. If we're already integrated with that MNO, there's nothing else to do apart from activate their commercial agreement that's between them and the MNO. If they want us to integrate, we'll integrate a new IMSI with that MNO on our network, and as such, they'll have use of our entire network. Which really means, if you sort of just contextualize it to a practicality, that really means that if you have an agreement with an MNO in one place of the world, but your users are in another place of the world, you can use our packet gate, you can use that agreement that you brought in. Let's just call it from a Central European country, but it's now terminated, but the devices are in Australia, if you're a car manufacturer or something.
Right.
Now, the commercial agreement might work, but really that, the network won't be very beneficial, transversing data all the way back to Europe from Australia and back terminating in Australia. So that, that round trip is too long, but you'll terminate via our local packet gateway in Australia and you'll get a high performance network. So that's the first part. The second part is, yes, we enable our partners to sell to their customers. So it could be anything from a full-on white label solution, which you could white label our connectivity management platform. You could utilize all our networks, all the IMSI providers that we have, including, one of the largest, if not the largest, infrastructure in terms of core network and packet gateways in the world that has a real global reach today. So I think all in all, I always really believed in the infrastructure side. It what differentiates floLIVE. All the other features on top of it are connectivity. It's a feature. Billing's a feature. Multi-IMSI is a feature. You could, there's various things that would be added on, that we have in mind will be added on to this infrastructure. But the essence is, it's like the railroads. It's like the pipes.
Thanks very much, Ronnie. I think that's been very useful.
And thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All of the detail in this video and much more is covered in depth in this report, available as a free handout with this video. Alternatively, it can be downloaded for free at www.beechamresearch.com/IoT-connectivity. Thanks very much for listening.